Going on to the Hartlocks tonight, Margaret. Olivia.
I suppose so. Are you?
Yes, horribly tedious parties they give, don't they?
Oh, horribly tedious. Never know why. Never know why I go anywhere.
I come here to be educated.
Oh, I hate being educated.
So do I. It puts one almost on a level with the commercial classes, doesn't it? But dear Gertrude Chiltern is always telling me that I should have some serious purpose in life. So I come here to try to find one.
I don't see anybody here tonight. Whom one could possibly call a serious purpose. The man who took me to dinner talked to me about his wife in the whole time.
How very trivial of him.
Terribly trivial. What did the man talk about?
About myself.
And were you interested?
Not in the smallest degree.
What martyrs we are, dear Margaret.
And how well it becomes us, Olivia.
Oh.
Mr. and Lady Jane Barford. Lord Caversham.
Good evening, Lady Chiltern. Has my good-for-nothing son been here?
Lord Caversham. I don't think he's arrived yet.
Thank you.
Why do you call Lord Goring good for nothing?
Because he leads such an idle life.
How can you say such a thing? Why, Lord Goring writes at the Row at the 10 o'clock in the morning. He goes to the opera 3 times a week, changes his clothes at least 5 times a day, and dines out every night of the season. You don't call that leading an idle life, do you?
Well, you are a very charming young lady.
How sweet of you to say that, Lord Caversham. Do come to us more often.
The Earl of Kettridge and Lady Kettridge.
My dear, I never go anywhere now. Sick of London society. Shouldn't mind being introduced to my own tailor. He always votes on the right side, but objects strongly to being sent down to dinner with my wife's milliner. Never could stand Lady Caversham's bonnets.
Oh, I love London society. I think it has immensely improved. It is entirely composed now of beautiful idiots and brilliant lunatics. Just what society should be.
And which is my son? Beautiful idiot or the other thing?
I have been obliged for the moment to put Lord Goring into a class by himself, but he is developing charmingly.
Into what?
I hope to let you know very soon, Lord Caversham.
Lady Markby, Mrs. Cheveley.
Good evening, dear Gertrude. So kind of you to let me bring my friend, Mrs. Cheveley. 2 such charming women should know each other.
I think Mrs. Cheveley and I have met before. I did not know she had married a second time.
Oh, well, nowadays, people marry as often as they can, don't they? It's most fashionable. Oh, Lady Basildon. And how is Lord Basildon? Brain still weak, I suppose?
Have we really met before, Lady Chiltern? I can't remember where. I've been out of England for so long.
We were at school together, Mrs. Cheveley.
Indeed. I've forgotten all about my school days. I have a vague impression that they were detestable.
I am not surprised.
Do you know, I'm quite looking forward to meeting your clever husband, Lady Chiltern. Since he has been at the Foreign Office, he has been so much talked of in Vienna.
I can hardly think there will be much in common between you and my husband, Miss Cheveley.
Ah, chère madame, quelle surprise! I've not seen you since Berlin.
Not since Berlin, Vicomte, 5 years ago.
And you are younger and more beautiful than ever. How do you manage it?
By making it a rule only to talk to perfectly charming people like yourself.
Ah, madame, you flatter me. You, butter me, as they say here.
Do they say that here? How dreadful of them.
Yes, they have a wonderful language. It should be more widely known.
Good evening, Lady Markby. I hope you have brought Sir John with you.
Oh, I have brought much more charming person than Sir John. Sir John's temper, since he has taken seriously to politics, has become quite unbearable. Really, now that House of Commons is trying to become useful, it does a great deal of harm.
I hope not, Lady Markby. At any rate, we do our best to waste the public time, don't we? But who is this charming person you've been kind enough to bring to us?
Oh, her name is Mrs. Cheveley, one of the Dorsetshire Cheveleys, I suppose. But I really don't know. Families are so mixed nowadays. Everybody in the end turns out to be somebody else.
Mrs. Cheveley. I seem to know the name.
Oh, she just arrived from Vienna.
Ah, yes, I think I know whom you mean.
Oh, she goes everywhere there and has such pleasant scandals about her friends. Oh, let me introduce you. My dear Sir Robert Chiltern is dying to know you.
Everyone is dying to know the brilliant Mrs. Cheveley. Our attachés at Vienna write to us about nothing else.
Thank you, Sir Robert. An acquaintance that begins with a compliment is sure to develop into a real friendship. It starts in the right manner. And I find that I know Lady Chiltern already.
Really?
Yes, she has just reminded me that we were at school together. I remember it perfectly now. She always got the Good Conduct Prize. I have a distinct recollection of Lady Chiltern always getting the Good Conduct Prize.
What prizes did you get, Lady Cheveley?
My prizes came later on in life. I don't think any of them were for good conduct. I forget.
I'm sure they were for something charming.
I don't know that women are always rewarded for being charming. I think they are usually punished for it.
I fear I can hardly agree with you there, but do sit down. Now tell me, what makes you leave your brilliant Vienna for our gloomy London? Or perhaps the question is indiscreet.
Questions are never indiscreet. Answers sometimes are.
Well, at any rate, may I know if it's politics or pleasure?
Politics are my only pleasure. You see, nowadays it is not fashionable to flirt till one is 40, or to be romantic till one is 45. So we poor women who are under 40, or say that we are, have nothing left to us but politics or philanthropy. I prefer politics. I think they are more becoming.
Well, political life is a noble career.
Sometimes, and sometimes it is a clever game, Sir Robert, and sometimes it is a great nuisance.
Which do you find it?
A combination of all three.
But you have not told me yet what makes you honor London so suddenly. Our season is nearly over.
Oh, no, I don't care for your London season. It is too matrimonial. People are either hunting for husbands or hiding from them. No, I wanted to meet you and to ask you to do something for me.
I do hope it is not a little thing, Mrs. Cheveley. I find that little things are so very difficult to do.
No, I don't think it is quite a little thing.
I'm so glad. Do tell me what it is.
Later on. And now may I walk through your beautiful house? I hear your pictures are charming. Poor Baron Arnheim. You remember the Baron used to tell me you had some wonderful Corot's.
Did you know Baron Arnheim well?
Intimately. Did you?
At one time.
Wonderful man, wasn't he?
He was very remarkable in many ways.
I often think it's such a pity he never wrote his memoirs. They would have been most interesting.
Lord Goring.
Good evening, my dear author, Mrs. Cheveley. Allow me to introduce you to Lord Goring, the idlest man in London.
I have met Lord Goring before.
I did not think you would remember me, Mrs. Cheveley.
My memory is under admirable control. And are you still a bachelor?
I believe so.
How very romantic.
Oh, I am not at all romantic. I'm not old enough. I leave romance to my seniors. By the way, Mrs. Cheveley, are you staying in London long?
That depends partly on the weather, partly on the cooking, and partly on Sir Robert.
You're not going to plunge us into a European war, I hope.
There is no danger at present.
You are very late.
Well, have you missed me?
Awfully.
Then I am sorry I did not stay away longer. I love being missed.
How very selfish of you.
Well, I am very selfish.
You are always telling me of your bad qualities, Lord Goring.
I've only told you half of them as yet, Mrs. Mabel.
Are the others very bad?
Oh, quite dreadful. When I think of them at night, I go to sleep at once.
Well, I delight in your bad qualities. I wouldn't have you part with one of them.
Well, how very nice of you. By the way, I want to ask you a question, Miss Mabel.
Yes?
Who brought Mrs. Cheever?
Oh, I think Lady Markby brought her. Why do you ask?
I haven't seen her for years. That is all.
What an absurd reason. What sort of woman is she?
Oh, a genius in the daytime and a beauty at night.
I dislike her already.
That shows your admirable good taste.
The English young lady is the dragon of good taste, is she not? Quite the dragon of good taste.
Well, so the newspapers are always telling us.
I read all your English newspapers. I find them so amusing.
Then, my dear Nanjack, you must certainly read between the lines.
I should like to, but my professor objects. May I have the pleasure of escorting you to the music room, mademoiselle?
Delighted, Vicomte. Quite delighted. Aren't you coming to the music room?
Not if there's any music going on, Miss Mabel.
The music is in German. You would not understand it.
Well, sir, what are you doing here? Wasting your life as usual. I can't make out how you put up with London society. The whole thing's gone to the dogs. What a damned nobody's talking about nothing.
I love talking about nothing, Father. It is the only thing I know anything about. Lady Basildon, Lady Marchmont, good evening.
Are you here? I had no idea you ever came to political parties.
Well, I adore political parties. They are the only place left to know. They're the only place left to us that nobody talks politics.
Oh, I delight in talking politics. I take them all day long. I talk them all day long, but I can't bear listening to them. I don't know how the unfortunate men in the House stand these long debates.
By never listening.
Really?
Of course. You see, it's a very dangerous thing to listen. If one listens, one may be convinced. And a man who allows himself to be convinced by an argument is a thoroughly unreasonable person.
I'm afraid Lord Goring is in the camp of the enemy, as usual. I saw him talking to that Mrs. Cheveley when he came in.
Oh.
Handsome woman, Miss Cheveley.
Oh, please don't praise other women in the presence. Excuse me. Please don't praise other women in our presence. You might wait for us to do that.
I did wait.
Well, we are not going to praise her. I hear she went to the opera on Monday night and told Tommy Rufford at supper that as far as she could see, London society was entirely made up of dowdies and dandies.
Well, she's quite right, too. The men are all dowdies and the women are all dandies, aren't they?
Oh, do you really think that is what Mrs. Cheveley meant?
Of course. And a very sensible remark for Miss Cheveley to make, too.
Why are you talking about Mrs. Cheveley? Everybody's talking about Mrs. Cheveley. Lord Goring says... What did you say, Lord Goring, about Mrs. Cheveley? Oh, I remember that she was a genius in the daytime and a beauty at night.
What a horrid combination. So very unnatural.
I like looking at geniuses and listening to beautiful people.
Ah, that is morbid of you, Mrs. Marchmont.
I am so glad to hear you say that. Marchmont and I have been married for 7 years, and he has never once told me that I was morbid. Men are so painfully unobservant.
I have always said, dear Margaret, that you were more person than...
Oh, but you are always so sympathetic, Olivia.
Is it morbid to have a desire for food? I have a great desire for food. Lord Goring, will you give me some supper?
With pleasure, Miss Mabel.
How horrid have you been? You have never talked to me the whole evening.
Well, how could I? You went away with that child diplomatist.
You might have followed us. Pursuit would have only been polite. I don't think I like you at all this evening.
I like you immensely.
Well, I wish you'd show it in a more marked way.
Olivia, I have a curious feeling of absolute faintness. I think I should like some supper very much. I know I should like some supper.
I am positively dying for supper, Margaret.
Men are so horribly selfish. They never think of these things.
Men are grossly material. Grossly material.
May I have the honor of taking you down to supper, Comtesse?
I never take supper, thank you, Vicomte. But I will come down with you for pleasure.
I am so fond of eating. I am very English in all my tastes.
You look quite English, Vicomte, quite English.
Will you come with us, Mrs. Marchmont?
Thank you, Vicomte. I never touch supper. But I will sit beside you and watch you.
I don't know that I like being watched while I am eating.
Then I will watch someone else.
I don't know that I should like that either.
Pray, Vicomte, do not make these painful scenes of jealousy in public.
And are you going to any of our country houses before you leave England, Mrs. Cheveley?
Oh no, I can't stand your English house parties. In England, people actually try to be brilliant at breakfast. Only dull people are brilliant at breakfast. And no, my stay in England really depends on you, Sir Robert.
Seriously?
Quite seriously. I want to talk to you about the Argentine Canal Company, in fact.
What a tedious practical subject for you to talk about, Mrs. Cheveley.
Oh, I like tedious practical subjects, but I don't like our tedious practical people. There's a wide difference. Besides, you are interested, I know, in international canal schemes. You were Lord Radley's secretary, weren't you, when the government bought the Suez Canal shares?
Yes, but the Suez Canal was a very great and splendid undertaking. It gave us our direct route to India. It had imperial value. This Argentine scheme is a commonplace stock exchange swindle.
A speculation, Sir Robert. A brilliant, daring speculation.
Believe me, Mrs. Cheveley, it is a swindle. Let us call things by their proper names. It makes matters simpler. We have all the information about it at the Foreign Office. In fact, I sent out a special commission to inquire into the matter privately, and they report that the works are hardly begun. And as for the money already invested, no one seems to know what has become of it. I hope that you have not invested in it. I am sure you are far too clever to have done that.
I have invested very largely in it.
Oh, who could have advised you to do such a foolish thing?
Your old friend and mine.
Who?
Baron Arnheim.
Oh, yes, I remember hearing at the time of his death that he had been mixed up in the whole affair.
It was his last romance, his last but one, to do him justice.
But Have you not yet seen my Corrots? They're in the music room. Corrots seem to go with music, don't they? May I show them to you?
I'm not in a mood tonight. I want to talk business.
Oh, I fear I have no advice to give you, Mrs. Cheveley, except to interest yourself in something less dangerous. The success of the canal depends, of course, on the attitude of England, and I am going to lay the report of the commissioners before the House tomorrow night.
That you must not do. In your own interest, Sir Robert, to say nothing of mine, you must not do that.
In my own interests? My dear Mrs. Cheveley, what do you mean?
Sir Robert, I will be quite frank with you. I want you to withdraw the report that you had intended to lay before the House on the ground that you have reasons to believe that the commissioners have been prejudiced or misinformed or something. Then I want you to say a few words to the effect that the government is going to reconsider the question, and that in your opinion the canal, if completed, would be of great international value. You know the sort of thing ministers say in cases of this kind. A few ordinary platitudes will do.
Mrs. Cheveley, you cannot be serious in making me such a proposition.
I am quite serious.
Pray allow me to believe that you are not.
But I am. And if you do what I ask, I will pay you very handsomely.
Pay me?
Yes.
I'm afraid I don't quite understand what you mean.
How very disappointing. And I have come all the way from Vienna in order that you should thoroughly understand me.
I fear I don't.
My dear Sir Robert, you are a man of the world and you have your price, I suppose.
If you will allow me, I will call your carriage for you. You have lived so long abroad, Mrs. Cheveley, that you seem unable to realize that you are talking to an English gentleman.
I realize that I am talking to a man who laid the foundation of his fortune by selling to a stock exchange speculator a cabinet secret.
What do you mean?
I mean that I know the real origin of your wealth and your career, and I have got your letter too.
What letter?
The letter that you wrote to Baron Arnheim when you were Lord Radley's secretary, telling the Baron to buy Suez Canal shares. A letter written 3 days before the government announced its own purchase.
It's not true.
You thought that the letter had been destroyed. How foolish of you. It is in my possession.
The affair to which you allude was no more than a speculation. The House of Commons had not yet passed the bill. It might have been rejected.
It was a swindle, Sir Robert. Let us call things by their proper names. It makes everything simpler. And now I am going to sell you that letter, and the price that I ask for it is your public support of the Argentine scheme. You made your own fortune out of one canal. You must help me and my friends make our fortunes out of another.
I cannot do what you ask me.
You mean you cannot help doing it? It is not for you to make terms, Sir Robert, but for you to accept them. Supposing you refuse.
What then?
What then? My dear Sir Robert. Well, you will be ruined, of course. Scandals used to lend charm or at least interest to a man, but nowadays they crush him. And this a very nasty scandal. You could never survive it. You would be hounded out of public office. And besides, Sir Robert, why should you sacrifice your entire future rather than deal diplomatically with your enemy? For the moment, I am your enemy. I admit it. Years ago, you did a clever, unscrupulous thing. It turned out a great success. You owe it your fortune and position. And now you've got to pay for it. Sooner or later, we all have to pay for what we do. You have to pay now. Before I leave you tonight, you have got to promise me to suppress your report and to speak in the House in favor of this scheme.
What you ask is impossible.
You must make it possible. You know what your English newspapers are like. Think of the delight they would have in dragging you down.
You want me to withdraw the report and to make a speech stating that I believe there are possibilities in the scheme.
Those are my terms.
I will give you any sum of money that you want.
Even you are not rich enough, Sir Robert, to buy back your past.
I will not do what you ask me. I will not.
You have to. If you don't...
Wait a moment. What do you propose? You said that you would give me back my letter, didn't you?
Yes, that is agreed. I will be in the ladies' gallery tomorrow night at 11:30. If by that time you have made your speech in the terms that I wish, then I will hand you back your letter with the prettiest thanks and the best, or at any rate the most suitable compliment I can think of. I intend to play quite fairly with you. One should always play fairly, when one has the winning cards. The Baron taught me that, amongst other things.
You must let me have time to consider your proposal.
No, you must settle now. I have to telegraph Vienna tonight.
My God, what brought you into my life?
Circumstances.
Go. I consent. The report shall be withdrawn. I will arrange for a question to be put to me on the subject.
Thank you. I knew we should come to an amicable agreement. I understood your nature from the first. And now, you can get my carriage for me, Sir Robert. I see the people coming up from supper, and Englishmen always get romantic after a meal. And that bores me dreadfully.
Oh, well, Mrs. Cheveley, I hope you enjoyed yourself. Sir Robert is most entertaining, is he not?
Most entertaining. I have enjoyed my talk with him immensely.
Oh, he has had a very interesting and brilliant career, and he has married a most admirable wife. I'm a little too old now myself to trouble about setting a good example, but I always admire people who do. And now I must go, dear. Shall I call for you tomorrow?
Thanks.
Oh, good night, dear. Good night, Gertrude.
What a charming house you have, Lady Chiltern. I've spent a delightful evening. It has been so interesting getting to know your husband.
Why did you wish to meet my husband, Mrs. Cheveley?
Oh, I wanted to interest him in this Argentine canal scheme, of which I dare say you have heard. And I found him most susceptible to reason, I mean. I convinced him in 10 minutes. He is going to make a speech in the House tomorrow night in favor of the idea. We must go to the ladies' gallery and hear him. It will be a great occasion.
There must be some mistake. That scheme could never have my husband's support.
Oh, I assure you, it's all settled. I don't regret my tedious journey from Vienna now. It has been a great success. But of course, for the next 24 hours, the whole thing is a dead secret. Between your husband and myself.
Your carriage is here, Mrs. Cheveley.
Thanks. Good evening, Lady Chiltern. Good night, Lord Goring. I am at Claridge's. Don't you think you might leave a card?
If you wish it, Mrs. Cheveley.
Oh, don't be so solemn about it, or I shall be obliged to leave a card on you. Sir Robert, will you take me to my carriage? Now that we have both the same interests at heart, we shall be the best of friends.
What a horrid woman.
Miss Mabel, you should go to bed.
Lord Goring.
My father told me to go to bed half an hour ago. I don't see why I shouldn't give you the same advice. I always pass on good advice. It is the only thing to do with it. It is never of any use to oneself.
Lord Goring, you are always ordering me out of the room. I think it's courageous of you, especially as I am not going to bed for hours. You can come and sit down and talk to me if you like. What's this?
I wonder who dropped it.
What a beautiful brooch.
It is a bracelet.
It isn't a bracelet, it's a brooch.
What are you doing? It can be used as a bracelet.
what are you doing?
Miss Mabel, I'm going to make a rather strange request to you.
Oh, pray do. I have been waiting for it all evening.
Now, don't mention to anybody that I have taken charge of this brooch. And if anyone should claim it, let me know at once.
That is a strange request.
Well, you see, I gave this brooch to somebody once, many years ago.
You did?
Yes.
Then I shall certainly bid you good night. Good night, Gertrude.
Good night, my dear. Did you see whom Lady Markby brought here tonight?
Yes, it was an unpleasant surprise. What did she come here for?
Apparently to try and lure Robert to uphold some fraudulent scheme in which he is interested.
Oh, I fancy she came to grief if she tried to lure Robert into her coils. It is extraordinary what astounding mistakes clever women make.
Don't call women of that kind clever. I call them stupid.
Same thing often. Good night, lady children.
Good night.
My dear Arthur, you're not going. Do stop a little. I want to talk to you.
Afraid I can't, thanks. I've promised to look in at the Hartlocks. I believe they have a Mauve Hungarian band that plays Mauve Hungarian music. I'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye.
How beautiful you look tonight, Gertrude.
Robert, it is not true, is it? You're not going to lend your support to this Argentine speculation.
Who told you I intended to do so?
That woman who has just gone out, Mrs. Cheveley, as she calls herself now. She seemed to taunt me with it. Robert, I know this woman. We were at school together. I despised her. She was sent away for being a thief.
Mrs. Cheveley may have changed since then. No one should be entirely judged by their past.
One's past is what one is. It is the only way by which people should be judged.
It's a hard saying, Gertrude.
It is a true saying, Robert. And what did she mean by boasting that she had got you to lend her support to a thing I have heard you describe as the most dishonest and fraudulent scheme?
I was mistaken in the view that I took. We all may make mistakes.
But Robert, you told me yesterday that you had received the report from the commission and that it entirely condemned the whole thing.
I have reason now to believe the commission was prejudiced, or at any rate misinformed.
Robert, are you telling me the whole truth?
Why do you ask me such a question?
Why do you not answer it?
Gertrude, truth is a very complex thing, and politics is a very complex business. There are wheels within wheels. One may be under certain obligations to people that one must pay. Sooner or later in political life, one has to compromise. Everyone does.
Compromise? Robert, you.
It is necessary, vitally necessary.
It can never be necessary to do what is not honorable. Robert, to the world, as to myself, you have been an ideal always. We women worship when we love. Don't kill my love for you. Don't kill that. Is there anything there in your life, any secret dishonor or disgrace? Tell me at once. Tell me that.
That what?
That our lives may drift apart.
Drift apart?
It would be better for both of us.
Gertrude, there is nothing in my past life that You might not know.
Oh, I was sure of it, Robert. Why did you say those dreadful things? They are so unlike your real self. Let us talk no more of the matter. You will write at once to Mrs. Cheveley, won't you, and tell her that you cannot support this scheme of hers? If you have given her any promise, then you must take it back. Now.
Now?
This moment.
But it's so late.
That makes no matter. Right here. She must know at once that she has been mistaken in you, and that you are not a man to do anything base or underhand or dishonorable. Write her, Robert. Write that you decline to support this scheme of hers, as you hold it to be a dishonest scheme. Yes, write the word dishonest. She knows what that word means. Yes, that will do. And now the envelope. Had this letter sent at once to Claridge's Hotel? There's no answer. Robert, I feel tonight that I have saved you from something. You have brought into the political life of our time a nobler atmosphere. I know it. That I love you.
Love me always, Gertrude. Love me always.
I will love you always, because you will always be worthy of my love. We needs must love the highest when we see it.
My dear Robert, it's a very awkward business, very awkward indeed. You should have told your wife the whole thing. No man should have a secret from his own wife. She invariably finds it out.
Arthur, I couldn't tell my wife. I would have lost the love of the one woman in the world I worship. She would have turned from me in horror and in contempt. And after all, whom did I wrong by what I did? No one.
Except yourself, Robert.
Oh, Arthur, I was 22 at the time. Do you think it fair that a whole man's career should be ruined for a fault done in his boyhood almost?
Life is never fair, Robert. And perhaps for most it is just as well that it is not.
I had the double misfortune of being well-born and poor. Two unforgivable things nowadays. Every man of ambition has to fight his century with his own weapons. What this century worships is wealth. The god of this century is wealth. At all costs, one must have wealth.
You could have succeeded just as well without it.
And I was old, perhaps. I wanted my success when I was young. I couldn't wait.
Robert, how could you have sold yourself for money?
I bought success at a great price. That is all.
But what first made you think of doing such a thing?
Baron Arnheim.
Damn scoundrel.
No, he was a man of culture, charm, distinction. One of the most intellectual men I have ever met.
Ah, well, I prefer a gentlemanly fool any day. There is more to be said for stupidity than people imagine. But how did he do it?
One night after dinner at Lord Raley's, the barons began talking about success in modern life. With that wonderfully fascinating, quiet voice of his, he expounded to us the most terrible of all philosophies, the philosophy of power. Luxury, he said, was only a background, and power over other men, power over the world was the supreme pleasure, the one joy one never tired of, and only the rich possessed it. I think he saw the effect that he had produced on me, for when I was going away, he said that if I could ever give him any private information of real value, he would make me a very rich man. I was dazed at the prospect he held out to me. 6 weeks later, certain private documents passed through my hands.
State documents?
Yes.
Oh, my dear Robert. I had no idea that you could have been so weak.
Weak? Oh, I am sick of hearing that phrase. Do you really think, Arthur, it is weakness that yields to temptation? I tell you, there are terrible temptations that require a terrible strength to yield to. I had that strength. I sat down that same afternoon and wrote Baron Arnheim the letter this woman now holds. He made $750,000 over the transaction.
And you?
I received from the Baron 110,000 pounds sterling.
You were worth more, Robert.
In 5 years, I had trebled my fortune. Everything I touched turned to success. I remember having read somewhere in some strange book that when the gods wish to punish us, they answer our prayers.
But tell me, Robert, did you never suffer any regret for what you had done?
No, but I have paid conscience money many times. I had a wild hope that I might disarm destiny. The sum that Baron Arnheim gave me, I have distributed twice over in public charities since then.
Public charities? Oh, my dear Robert, what a lot of harm you have done.
Oh, Arthur, don't talk like that.
Never mind what I say, Robert. Of course, I will do everything that I can to help. You know that.
Thank you, Arthur. But what is to be done?
Well, the English are very fond of a man who admits that he has been in the wrong. It's one of the best things in them. However, in your case, Robert, a confession would not do. The money, if you allow me to say so, is awkward. You must begin by telling your wife the whole thing.
That I will not do.
Robert, believe me, you are wrong.
I couldn't do it. It would kill her love for me. And now, about this Mrs. Cheveley, how can I defend myself against her? You knew her before, Arthur?
Yes.
Did you know her well?
So little that I got engaged to her. The affair lasted for 3 days, nearly.
Why was it broken off?
Oh, I forget. At least it doesn't matter. By the way, have you tried her with money? She used to be confoundedly fond of money.
I offered any sum of money she wanted. She refused.
Then the marvelous gospel of gold breaks down sometimes, Robert. Fight her. You must fight her.
But how?
I can't tell you how at present. I haven't the slightest idea, but everyone has some weak point. There is some flaw in each one of us. Now, my father tells me that even I have faults. Well, perhaps I have, I don't know.
Well, I shall send a cipher telegram to the embassy at Vienna to inquire if there is anything known against her. There may be some secret scandal she might be afraid of.
Oh, I should fancy Miss Cheveley is one of those very modern women of our time who find a new scandal as becoming as a new bonnet, and air them both in the park every afternoon at 5:30. I'm sure she adores scandals, and that the sorrow of her life at present is that she can't manage to have enough of them.
Why do you say that?
Well, she wore far too much rouge last night and not quite enough clothes. That is always a sign of despair in a woman.
But it is worthwhile my wiring to Vienna, is it not?
It is always worthwhile asking a question, though it is not always worthwhile answering one.
Is Mr. Trotwood in his room?
Yes, Sir Robert.
Tell him to have this sent off in cipher at once. There must not be a moment's delay.
Yes, Sir Robert.
She must have had some curious hold over Baron Onheim. I wonder what it was.
I wonder.
Good afternoon, Lord Goring.
Good afternoon, Lady Chiltern. Have you been in the park?
No, I have just come from the Women's Liberal Association where, by the way, Robert, your name was received with loud applause, and now I have come in to have my tea. You will wait and have some tea, won't you?
I'll wait for a short time, thanks.
I will be back in a moment. I'm only going to take my hat off.
Oh, please don't. It is so pretty. One of the prettiest hats I ever saw. I hope the Women's Liberal Association received it with loud applause.
We have much more important work to do than look at each other's bonnets, Lord Goring.
You've been a good friend to me, Arthur. You've enabled me to tell you the truth. That is something.
Ah, the truth is something I always get rid of as quickly as possible.
The truth has always stifled me. I'll see you again soon, Arthur, shan't I?
Certainly, whenever you like.
Thank you.
You are not going, Robert.
I have some letters to write, dear.
You work too hard, Robert. You are looking so tired.
It is nothing, dear, nothing.
Do sit down. I'm so glad you have called. I want to talk to you about, well, not about bonnets, or the Women's Liberal Association.
You want to talk to me about Mrs. Cheveley?
Yes, you have guessed it. After you left last night, I found out that what she had really said was really true. Of course, I made Robert write her a letter at once, withdrawing his promise.
So he gave me to understand?
To have kept it would have been the first stain on a career that has been stainless otherwise. Robert must be above reproach. He is not like other men. He cannot afford to do what other men do. Don't you agree with me? You are Robert's greatest friend. No one except myself knows Robert better than you do. He has no secrets from me, and I don't think he has any from you.
Well, he certainly has no secrets from me. At least I don't think so, Lady Chiltern. I have often thought that perhaps that you are just a little too unbending hard in your views on life. I think that often you don't make sufficient allowances. Supposing, for instance, that any public man, my father or Lord Merton or Robert, say, had years ago written some foolish letter to someone.
What do you mean by a foolish letter?
Well, a letter gravely compromising one's position. I'm only putting an imaginary case.
Robert is as incapable of doing a foolish thing as he is of doing a wrong thing.
Nobody is incapable of doing a foolish thing. Nobody is incapable of doing a wrong thing. Lady Chiltern, if ever you are in trouble, trust me absolutely, and I will do everything that I can to help. If you want me, just ask for my assistance and you shall have it.
Lord Goring, you are talking quite seriously. I don't think I ever heard you talk seriously before.
You must excuse me, Lady Chiltern. Perhaps I promise you that I will never let it occur again.
But I like you to be serious.
Dear Gertrude, don't say such a dreadful thing to Lord Goring. Seriousness would be very unbecoming of him. Good afternoon, Lord Goring. Pray be as trivial as you can.
I'm afraid I am a little out of practice this afternoon, Miss Mabel, and I was on the point of leaving.
Just when I have come in, what dreadful manners you have. I am sure you were very badly brought up.
I was.
I wish I had brought you up.
I am so sorry that you didn't.
It is too late now, I suppose.
I'm not so sure.
Will you ride tomorrow morning?
Yes, at 10.
Don't forget.
Oh, of course I shan't. By the way, Lady Chiltern, there is no list of your guests in the Morning Post of today. It has apparently been crowded out by the council, the county council, or the Lambeth Conference, or something equally boring. Could you let me have a list? I have a particular reason for asking you.
I'm sure Mr. Trafford will be able to give you one.
Thanks so much.
Tommy Trafford is the most useful person in London.
And who is the most ornamental?
I am.
How clever of you to guess it. Goodbye, Lady Chiltern. You will remember what I said to you, won't you?
Yes, but I don't know why you said it to me now.
I hardly know myself. Goodbye, Miss Mason.
Gertrude, I wish you would speak to Tommy Trafford.
What has poor Mr. Trafford done this time? Robert says he is the best secretary he has ever had.
Well, Tommy has proposed to me again. Tommy really does nothing but propose to me. He proposed to me this morning in broad daylight in front of that dreadful statue of Achilles. Really, the things that go on in front of that work of art are quite appalling. The police should interfere. You see, if he proposed at the top of his voice, I should not mind so much. That might produce some effect on the public. But he does it in this horrid, confidential way, like a doctor. I wish, Gertrude, you would talk to him and tell him that once a week is quite often enough to propose to anyone, and that it should always be done in a manner that attracts some attention.
Dear Mabel, don't talk like that. Besides, Robert thinks very highly of Mr. Trafford. He believes he has a brilliant future before him.
Oh, I wouldn't marry a man with a future before him for anything under the sun.
Mabel!
I know, dear. You married a man with a future, didn't you? But then, you see, my brother was a genius, and you have a noble, self-sacrificing character. Oh, I've got to go around now to Lady Basildon's. You remember we're having tableau, don't you? I've got to act the triumph of something. I don't know what. I only hope it will be the triumph of me. Only triumph I am interested in at the present. Oh, Gertrude, do you know who's coming to see you? That dreadful Miss Cheveley, in a most lovely gown. Did you ask her?
Mrs. Cheveley, coming to see me? Impossible.
I assure you she's crossing the hall, as large as life and not nearly so natural.
You need not wait, Mabel. Remember, Lady Basildon is expecting you.
Oh, yes, I've got to stand on my head for charity, haven't I?
Lady Markby, Mrs. Cheveley.
Oh, dear Gertrude, we just called to know if Mrs. Cheveley's diamond brooch had been found.
Yeah.
Yes, I missed it when I got back to Claridge's, and I thought I might possibly have dropped it here.
I've heard nothing about it, but I'll ring for the butler and ask.
Oh, pray don't trouble, Lady Chiltern. I dare say I lost it at the opera before we came here.
The fact is, we all scramble and jostle so much nowadays that I wonder we have anything at all left on us at the end of an evening.
What sort of brooch was it that you lost, Mrs. Cheveley?
A diamond snake brooch with a ruby, a rather large ruby.
Has a ruby and diamond brooch been found in any of the rooms this morning, Mason?
No, milady.
It really is of no consequence, Lady Chiltern. I am so sorry to have put you to any inconvenience.
It has been no inconvenience. That'll do, Mason. You can bring tea.
Well, I must say it's most annoying to lose anything. I remember once at Bath years ago losing in the pump room an exceedingly exquisite cameo bracelet that my husband had given to me. I don't think he has given me anything since, sad to say.
May I give you some tea, Mrs. Cheveley?
Thank you.
Some tea, Lady Markby?
No, thank you, my dear. I have promised to make another call, and so if you will allow me, I shall leave Mrs. Cheveley in your charge and call back for her later.
Well, certainly, dear. I'll be glad to have a few minutes' conversation with Mrs. Cheveley.
How very kind of you, Lady Chiltern. Believe me, nothing would give me greater pleasure.
Oh, no doubt you both have many pleasant reminiscences of your school days to talk over together. Oh, goodbye, dear Gertrude. Shall I see you at Lady Bonar's tonight? I am told she has discovered a wonderful new genius. He does nothing at all, I believe. That is great comfort, is it not?
Wonderful woman, Lady Markby, isn't she? Talks more and says less than anybody I ever met. She is made to be a public speaker.
Mrs. Cheveley, I think it is right to tell you quite frankly that had I known who you really were, I should not have invited you to my house last night.
Really?
I could not have done so.
I see that after all these years you have not changed a bit, Gertrude.
I never change.
Then life has taught you nothing.
It has taught me that a person who has once been guilty of a dishonest and dishonorable action, they may be guilty of it a second time and should be shunned.
Would you apply that rule to everyone?
Yes, to everyone without exception.
Then I am very sorry for you, Gertrude.
You see, now, I was sure that for many reasons, any further acquaintance between us during your stay in London is quite impossible.
Do you know, Gertrude, I don't mind your talking morally a bit. Morality is simply the attitude we adopt towards people whom we personally dislike. You dislike me, I'm quite aware of that, and I have always detested you. And yet I have come here today to do you a service.
Like the service you wished to render my husband last night, I suppose. Thank heaven I saved him from that.
So it was you who made him write that insolent letter to me. It was you who made him break his promise.
Yes.
Then you must make him keep it. I give you till tomorrow morning, no more. If by that time your husband does not solemnly bind himself to help me in this great scheme...
This fraudulent speculation.
Call it what you choose. I hold your husband in the hollow of my hand, and if you are wise, you will make him do what I tell him.
You are impertinent. What has my husband to do with a woman like you?
In this world, like meets with like. It is because your husband is himself fraudulent and dishonest that we pair so well together. Between you and him, there are chasms. But he and I are closer than friends. We are enemies linked together. The same sin bonds us.
Dare you class my husband with yourself? Leave my house.
Your house. A house, everything in which has been paid for by fraud. Ask him what the origin of his fortune is. Get him to tell you how he sold to a stockbroker a cabinet secret. Learn from him to what you owe your position.
It is not true. Robert, it is not true.
Look at him. Can he deny it?
Go. Go at once.
I have not yet finished with you, either of you. I give you both till tomorrow at noon. If by then you don't do what I bid you to do, the whole world shall know the origin of Robert Chiltern.
Show Mrs. Cheveley out.
Sold a cabinet secret for money. You began your life with fraud.
What this woman said is quite true. But, Gertrude, listen to me.
Don't come near me. Don't touch me.
Gertrude.
No, don't speak. Say nothing. How I worship you. You were to me something apart from common life. Being pure, noble, honest, without stain. The world seemed to me a finer place because you were in it. And now, oh, I think that I made a man like you my ideal? The ideal of my life.
That was your mistake. Why can't you women love us, faults and all? It is not the perfect, but the imperfect who have need of love. It is when we are wounded by our own hands that we love should come to cure us. Else what use is love at all? You made your false idol of me, and I had not the courage to come down, show you my wounds, tell you my weaknesses. I was afraid I might lose your love, as I've lost it now. And so, last night you ruined my life for me. What this woman asked of me was nothing compared to what she offered. She offered security, peace, stability. The sin of my youth that I thought was buried rose up in front of me, hideous, horrible. I could have killed it forever, but you prevented me. No one but you. And now, what is there before me but public disgrace, ruin, terrible shame, the mockery of the world? Let women make no more ideals of men, for they will ruin other lives as completely as you whom I have so wildly loved, have ruined mine.
Got my second buttonhole for me, Phipps?
Yes, my lord.
Rather distinguished thing, Phipps. I am the only person of the smallest importance in London at present who wears a buttonhole.
Yes, my lord, I have observed that.
You see, Phipps, fashion is what one wears oneself. What is unfashionable is what other people wear.
Yes, my lord.
Other people are quite dreadful. The only possible society is oneself.
Yes, my lord.
To love oneself is the beginning of a lifelong romance, Phipps.
Yes, my lord.
I don't think I quite like this buttonhole, Phipps. It makes me look a little too old. Makes me almost in the prime of life, eh, Phipps?
I don't observe any alteration in your lordship's appearance.
You don't, Phipps?
No, my lord, but I will speak to the florist. She has had a loss in her family lately.
Ah, well, it is an extraordinary thing about the lower classes in England. They're always losing their relations.
Yes, my lord, they are extremely fortunate in that respect.
Were there any messages for me, Phipps?
3, my lord.
I want the cab round at once.
Yes, my lord.
Phipps, when did this letter arrive?
It was brought by hand just after your lordship went to the club.
That will do, Phipps. Lady Chiltern's handwriting on Lady Chiltern's pink notepaper. I want you. I trust you. I am coming to you, Gertrude. Oh, poor woman. She has found out everything.
Lord Caversham.
Oh, why will parents always appear at the wrong time? Some extraordinary mistake in nature, I suppose. Ah, my dear father, delighted to see you.
Take my cloak off.
Is it worthwhile, father?
Of course it's worthwhile, sir. Take it off. Now, which is the more comfortable chair?
That one, father. That is the one that I always use when I have visitors.
Well, thank you. There's no draft in this room, I hope.
Of course, Father, there's no draft.
Now, I want to have a serious conversation with you, sir.
But, Father, it is after 7, and my doctor tells me that I must not have any serious conversation after 7. It makes me talk in my sleep.
Walk in your sleep, sir. What does that matter? You're not married.
No, Father, I am not married.
That is what I've come to talk to you about, sir.
Yes, I was afraid of that.
Why, when I was your age, sir, I had been an inconsolable widower for 3 months. I was already paying my addresses to your admirable mother. You can't always be living for pleasure. It's high time for you to get married. You're 34 years of age, sir.
Yes, sir, but I only admit to being 32. 31 and a half when I have a really good buttonhole.
Well, you're 34, I tell you. And there is a drought in this room, besides what makes your conduct worse. Why did you tell me there was no draft, sir? I can feel the draft, sir. I feel it distinctly.
Quite right, Father. There is a most dreadful draft. I will come and see you tomorrow, Father. We can talk over anything you like.
No, sir. I have come here with a very definite purchase, and I intend to see it through. Now put down my, sir.
Certainly, Father. But let us go into the smoking room. Your sneezes are quite heartrending.
Well, sir, suppose I have the right to sneeze when I choose?
Quite so, Father. I was merely expressing sympathy.
Oh, damn sympathy. There is a great deal too much of that sort of thing going on nowadays.
I quite agree with you, Father. If there was less sympathy in the world, there would be less trouble in the world.
Do you always understand what you say, sir?
Yes, Father. I listen attentively.
If you listen attentively, conceited young puppy.
Phipps, there is a lady coming to see me this evening on particular business. Show her into the drawing room when she arrives. You understand?
Yes, my lord.
Now, it is a matter of the greatest importance, Phipps.
I understand, my lord.
No one else is to be admitted under any circumstances.
I understand, my lord.
Ah, well, that is probably the lady. I shall see her myself.
Well, sir, my wait attendance on you.
In a moment, Father. Do excuse me. Well, remember my instructions, Phipps. Into that room.
Yes, my lord.
Is Lord Goring not here? I was told he was at home.
His lordship is engaged at present with Lord Caversham, madam.
How very silly of him.
His lordship told me to ask you, madam, if you'd be so kind as to wait in the drawing room for him. His lordship will come to you there.
Lord Goring expects me.
Yes, madam.
Are you quite sure?
His lordship told me that if a lady called, I was to ask her to wait in the drawing room. His lordship's directions on the subject were very precise.
How thoughtful of him. To expect the unexpected shows a thoroughly modern intellect. Oh, how dreary a bachelor's drawing room always looks. I shall have to alter all this. No, I don't care for that lamp. It is far too glaring. Light some candles.
Certainly, madam.
I hope the candles have very becoming shades.
We have had no complaints about them, madam, as yet.
I wonder what woman he is waiting for tonight. It will be delightful to catch him. Men always look so silly when they are caught. I want you. I trust you. I am coming to you. Gertrude. I want you. I trust you. I am coming to you.
The candles in the drawing room are lit, madam, as you directed.
Thank you.
My dear Father, if I'm to get married, surely you will allow me to choose the time, place, and person, particularly the person.
There is a matter for me, sir. You would probably make a very poor choice. It is I who should be consulted, not you. There's property at stake. It is not a matter for affection. Affection comes later on in married life.
Yes, in married life, affection comes when people thoroughly dislike each other, Father, doesn't it?
Certainly, sir. I mean, certainly not, sir. You're talking very foolishly tonight. What I say is that marriage is a matter for common sense.
So my mother tells me.
My dear Arthur, what a piece of good luck meeting you on the doorstep. Your servant had just told me you were not at home. How extraordinary.
The fact is, I'm horribly busy tonight, Robert, and I gave orders that I was not at home to anyone. If my father had the comparatively cold reception, he complained of a draft the whole time.
And not without reason, sir. Good evening.
Ah, you must be at home to me, Arthur. You're my best friend. Perhaps by tomorrow you will be my only friend. My wife has discovered everything.
Ah, I guessed as much.
Really? How?
Oh, merely by something in the expression of your face as you came in. Who told her?
Mrs. Cheveley herself. Oh, I would to God I had died before I'd been so horribly tempted or had fallen so low.
You have heard nothing from Vienna yet in answer to your wife?
Yes, I got a telegram from the first secretary at 8 o'clock tonight.
Well?
Nothing is absolutely known against her. On the contrary, she occupies a rather high position in society. It is a sort of open secret that Baron Onheim left her the greater portion of his immense fortune. Beyond that, I can learn nothing.
She doesn't turn out to be a spy, then?
All spies are of no use nowadays. Their profession is over. The newspapers do their work instead. Arthur, I'm parched with thirst. May I ring for something, some hock and seltzer?
Ah, certainly, let me.
Thanks, I don't know what I can do, Arthur. I don't know what I can do. I can trust you absolutely, can't I?
My dear Robert, of course. Oh, bring some hock and seltzer.
Yes, my lord.
And Phipps?
Yes, my lord.
Will you excuse me for a moment, Robert? I want to give some directions to my servant.
Certainly.
When that lady calls, tell her that I am not home to anyone. Do you understand?
The lady is in the drawing room, my lord. You told me to show her into that room, my lord.
You did perfectly right.
Arthur, tell me what I should do. My life seems to have crumbled about me.
Robert, you love your wife, don't you?
I love her more than anything else in the world. I used to think ambition the great thing. It is not. Love is the great thing. There is nothing but love, and I love her. But she's found me out, Arthur. She has found me out.
Well, has she never in her life done some folly, some indiscretion that she should not forgive, that she should not forgive your sin?
My wife? Never. She does not know what weakness or temptation is.
But your wife will forgive you, Robert. Perhaps at this moment she is forgiving you. She is forgiving you. She loves you, Robert. Why should you not forgive?
God grant it. God grant it.
Hock and seltzer, sir.
Thank you.
Robert, did you come in your carriage?
No, I walked from the club.
Sir Robert will take my cab, Phipps.
Yes, my lord.
Now, Robert, you will forgive me if I send you away.
Arthur, you must let me stay for 5 minutes. I have made up my mind what I'm going to do tonight in the house. The debate on the Argentine Canal is to begin at 11. What is that?
Nothing.
I heard something in the next room. Someone has been listening.
No, there's no one there.
There is someone. There are lights in the room, and the door is ajar. Arthur, what does this mean?
Robert, you are excited, unnerved. I tell you, there's no one in that room.
Do you give me your word there's no one there?
Yes.
Your word of honor?
Yes.
Arthur, let me see for myself.
No, no.
Is there no... If there is no one there, why should I not look in that room?
Robert, now this must stop. I have told you there is no one in that room. That is enough.
It is not enough.
Oh, for God's sake, don't. There is someone there. Someone whom you must not see.
Ah, I thought so.
I forbid you to enter that room.
Stand back. I will know who it is. What explanation have you to give me for the presence of that woman here?
Robert, I swear to you on my honor that lady is stainless and guiltless of all offense towards you.
She is a vile and infamous thing.
Well, don't say that, Robert. It was for your sake she came here. I was to try and save you. I was to try and save you. She came here. She loves you and no one else.
You are mad. What have I to do with her intrigues with you? Let her remain your mistress. You are well suited to each other.
It is not true, Robert. Before heaven, it is not true.
Let me pass, sir. You have sworn enough upon your word of honor.
Good evening, Lord Goring.
Ah, Mr. Chiefly. Well, great heavens! May I ask you what you are doing in my drawing room?
Merely listening. I have a perfect passion for listening through keyholes. One always hears such wonderful things through them.
Doesn't that sound rather like tempting Providence?
Oh, surely Providence can resist temptation by this time.
I'm glad you have called. I'm going to give you some good advice.
Oh, pray don't. One should never give a woman anything she can't wear in the evening.
Well, I see you are quite as willful as you used to be.
Far more. I have greatly improved. I have had more experience.
Too much experience is a dangerous thing. Pray have a cigarette. Half the pretty women in London smoke cigarettes. Personally, I prefer the other half.
Thanks. I never smoke. My dressmaker wouldn't like it. And a woman's first duty in life is to her dressmaker, isn't it? What the second duty is, no one has as yet discovered.
You have come here to sell me Robert Chiltern's letter, haven't you?
To offer it to you on conditions. How did you guess that?
Because you haven't mentioned the subject. Have you got it with you?
Oh no, a well-made dress has no pockets.
What is your price for it?
How absurdly English you are. The English think that a checkbook can solve every problem in life. Why, my dear Arthur, I have very much more money than you have, and quite as much as Robert Chiltern has got hold of. Money is not what I want.
What do you want then, Miss Chiefly?
Why don't you call me Laura?
I don't like the name.
You used to adore it.
Yes, that's why.
Arthur, you loved me once.
Yes.
And you asked me to be your wife.
That was the natural result of my loving you.
And you threw me over because you saw, or said you saw, poor old Lord Mortlake trying to have a violent flirtation with me in the conservatory at Tenby.
I am under the impression that my lawyer settled that matter with you on certain terms, dictated by yourself.
At that time, I was poor. You were rich.
Quite so. That is why you pretended to love me.
You were silly, Arthur. Lord Mortlake was never anything more to me than an amusement. I loved you, Arthur.
My dear Mrs. Chiefly, you have always been far too clever to know anything about love.
I did love you, and you loved me. I suppose that when a man has once loved a woman, he will do anything for her except continue to love her.
Yes, Except that.
I am tired of living abroad. I want to come back to London. I want to have a charming house here. I want to have a salon. If one could only teach the English how to talk and the Irish how to listen, society here would be quite civilized. Besides, I have arrived at the romantic stage. When I saw you last night at the Chilterns, I realized that you were the only person I have ever cared for, if I have ever cared for anybody, Arthur. And so on the morning of the day that you marry me, I will give you Robert Chiltern's letter. That is my offer. I will give it to you now if you promise to marry me.
Now.
Tomorrow.
Are you really serious?
Yes, quite serious.
I should make you a very bad husband.
I don't mind bad husbands. I had two. They amused me immensely.
You mean that you amused yourself immensely, don't you?
What do you know about my married life?
Nothing, but I can read it like a book.
What book?
The book of numbers.
Do you think it is quite charming of you to be so rude to a woman in your own house?
In the case of very fascinating women, sex is a challenge, not a defense.
I suppose that is meant for a compliment. My dear Arthur, women are never disarmed by compliments. Men always are. That is the difference between the two sexes.
Women are never disarmed by anything, as far as I know them.
Then you are going to allow your greatest friend, Robert Chiltern, to be ruined, rather than marry someone who really has considerable attractions left. Is that how you men stand up for each other?
It is infinitely preferable to the war you women wage against each other.
I only wage war against one woman, against Gertrude Chiltern. I hate her. I hate her now more than ever.
Because you have brought a real tragedy into her life, I suppose.
There is only one real tragedy in a woman's life. The fact that her past is always her lover and her future invariably her husband.
Lady Chiltern knows nothing of the kind of life to which you are alluding.
Well, Arthur, I suppose this romantic interview may be regarded as at an end. You admit it was romantic, don't you? For the privilege of being your wife, I was ready to surrender a great prize. The climax of my diplomatic career. You decline. Very well. If Sir Robert doesn't uphold my Argentine scheme, then I expose him. Voila, tout.
You mustn't do that. It would be vile, horrible, infamous.
Oh, don't use big words. They mean so little. It is a commercial transaction. If he won't pay me my price, he will have to pay the world a greater price. There is no more to be said. I must go. Goodbye. Won't you shake hands?
With you? No. You went this afternoon to the house of one of the most noble and gentle women in the world to degrade her husband in her eyes. To try and kill her love for him. That I cannot forgive.
Arthur, you are unjust to me. I didn't go to taunt Gertrude. I called with Lady Markby to see if her ornament, a jewel that I had lost last night, had been found at the Chilterns.
A diamond snake brooch with rubies?
Yes. How do you know?
Because it is found. In point of fact, I found it myself, and I foolishly forgot to tell you, the butler, anything about it as I was leaving. This is the brooch, isn't it?
Yes. I'm so glad to get it back. It was a present.
Won't you wear it?
Certainly, if you will pin it on. Why do you put it on as a bracelet? I never knew it could be worn as a bracelet.
Really?
No, but it looks very well on me as a bracelet, doesn't it?
Yes. Much better than when I saw it last.
When did you see it last?
Oh, 10 years ago, on my cousin, Lady Berkshire, from whom you stole it.
What do you mean?
I mean that you stole that ornament from my cousin Mary Berkshire, to whom I gave it when she was married. I recognized it last night. I determined to say nothing about it till I had found the thief.
It is not true.
Of course it's true. Why, thief is written across your face at this moment.
I will deny the whole affair from beginning to end. I will say that I have never seen this wretched thing, that it was never in my possession.
The drawback of stealing a thing, Miss Chiefly, is that one never knows how wonderful the thing that one steals is. You can't get that bracelet off unless you know where the spring is. It is rather difficult to find. I gave the jeweler particular instruction.
You brute! You coward!
Oh, don't use big words. They mean so little.
Ugh! What are you going to do?
I'm going to ring for my servant. He is an admirable servant, always comes in the moment one rings for him. When he comes, I will tell him to fetch the police.
The police? What for?
Tomorrow the Berkshires will prosecute you. That is what the police are for.
Don't do that.
Robert Chilton. Sorry.
I will do anything you want. Anything in the world you want.
Give me Robert Chilton's letter.
Stop. Stop. Let me have time to think.
Give me Robert Chilton's letter.
I have not got it with me. I will give it to you tomorrow.
You know you are lying. Give it to me at once. This is it?
Yes.
For so well-dressed a woman, Miss Chiefly, you do have moments of the most admirable common sense.
And now will you get me my cloak?
With pleasure.
Thank you. I promise that I will never try to harm Robert Chilton again.
Fortunately, you have not the chance, Mrs. Chiefly.
Well, if I even had the chance, I wouldn't do it. On the contrary, I am going to render him a great service.
Well, I am charmed to hear it. Why, this is a reformation.
Yes. I can't bear so upright a gentleman, so honourable an English gentleman, so shamefully deceived.
And so?
I find that Gertrude Chilton's dying speech and confession has somehow strayed into my pocket.
What do you mean?
I am going to send Robert Chilton the love letter that his wife wrote to you tonight.
Love letter?
I want you. I trust you. I am coming to you, Gertrude.
Wretched woman. Must you always be thieving? Give me back that letter. You shall leave my room till I have got it.
Lord Goring merely rang that you should show me out. Good night, Lord Goring.
It's a great nuisance. I can't find anyone in this house to talk to. And I am full of interesting information. I feel like the latest edition of something or other.
Sir Robert is still at the Foreign Office, my lord.
Lady Chilton, not down yet?
Her ladyship has not yet left her room. Miss Chilton has just come in from riding.
Ah, well, that is something.
Lord Caversham has been waiting some time in the library for Sir Robert. I told him your lordship was here.
Thank you. Would you kindly tell him I've gone?
I shall do so, my lord.
Really, I don't want to meet my father 3 days running. It is a great deal too much excitement for any son. I hope to goodness he won't come in.
Well, sir, what are you doing here? Wasting your time as usual, I suppose.
My dear father, when one pays a visit, it is for the purpose of wasting other people's time, not one's own.
Have you been thinking over what I spoke to you about last night?
I've been thinking about nothing else.
Engaged to be married yet?
Not yet, but I hope to be before lunchtime.
You can have until dinner time if it would be of any convenience to you.
Thanks awfully, but I think I'd sooner be engaged before lunch.
Never know when you're serious or not.
Neither do I, Father.
Have you read the Times today? The leading article on Sir Robert Chilton's career?
Good heavens, no. What does it say?
What should it say, sir? Everything complimentary, of course. Chiltern's speech last night on this Argentine canal scheme was one of the finest pieces of oratory ever delivered in the House since Canning.
Ah, never heard of Canning. Never wanted to. But what did Robert uphold the scheme?
Uphold it, sir? How little you know him. No, sir, he denounced it roundly, and the whole system of modern political finance. Sir Robert Chiltern, the most rising of our young statesmen, brilliant orator, unblemished character. His well-known integrity of character represents all that is best in English public life. They'll never say that of you, sir.
I sincerely hope not, Father. However, I am delighted at what you tell me about Robert. Thoroughly delighted. It shows he's got pluck.
He's got more than pluck, sir. He's got genius.
Ah, I prefer pluck. It's not so common nowadays as genius is.
Oh, I wish you would go into Parliament.
My dear Father, only people who look dull ever get into the House of Commons, and only people who are dull ever succeed there.
Why don't you try something useful in life? Why don't you propose to that pretty Miss Chiltern? Don't suppose there's the smallest chance of her accepting you? You don't deserve her.
My dear Father, if we men married the women we deserved, we should have a very bad time of it.
Oh, how do you do, Lord Caversham? I hope Lady Caversham is well?
Lady Caversham is as usual.
Good morning, Miss Mabel.
And Lady Caversham's bonnets, are they all better?
They've had a serious relapse, I'm sorry to say.
Good morning, Miss Mabel.
Oh, are you here? Of course, you understand that after you breaking your appointment, I am never going to speak to you again. Do you think you could possibly make your son behave a little better occasionally, just as a change?
I regret to say, Miss Chiltern, that I have no influence at all over my son. I wish I had. If I had, I know what I would make him do. Now, I really must bid you good morning. I only dropped in to congratulate Sir Robert on his speech.
Oh, I hope you're not going to leave me all alone with Lord Goring, especially at such an early hour in the day.
I'm afraid I can't take him with me to Downing Street. It's not the Prime Minister's day for seeing the unemployed.
People who don't keep their appointments in the park are horrid.
Detestable.
I am glad you admit it, but I wish you wouldn't look so pleased about it.
I can't help it. I always feel pleased when I am with you.
Then I suppose it is my duty to remain with you?
Of course it is.
Well, my duty is a thing I never do on principle. It always depresses me, so I'm afraid I must leave you.
Oh, please don't, Miss Mabel. I have something very particular to say to you.
Oh, is it a proposal?
Well, yes, it is. I am bound to say it is.
I am so glad. That makes the second today.
The second today? Now, what conceited ass has been impertinent enough to dare to propose to you before I had proposed to you?
Tommy Trafford, of course. It is one of Tommy's days for proposing. He always proposes on Tuesdays and Thursdays during the season.
Well, you didn't accept him, I hope?
I make it a rule never to accept Tommy. That is why he goes on proposing.
Oh, brother Tommy Trafford. Tommy is a silly little ass. I love you.
I know, and I think you might have mentioned it before. I am sure I have given you heaps of opportunities.
Mabel, do be serious. Please be serious.
That is the sort of thing a man always says to a girl before he has been married to her. He never says it afterwards.
Mabel, I have told you that I love you. Can't you love me just a little in return?
You silly Arthur. If you knew anything about anything, which you don't, you would know that I adore you. Everyone in London knows except you. It is a public scandal the way I adore you. I have been going about it for the last 6 months, telling the whole of society that I adore you. I wonder you consent to have anything to say to me. I have no character left at all.
Dear, do you know I was awfully afraid of being refused?
But you never have been refused yet by anybody, have you, Arthur? I can't imagine anyone refusing you.
Of course, I'm not nearly good enough for you, Mabel.
I'm so glad, darling. I was afraid you were.
And I'm a little over 30.
Dear, you look weeks younger than that.
How sweet of you to say so. And it's only fair to tell you frankly that I am fearfully extravagant.
But so am I, Arthur. So we're sure to agree. And now I must go tell Gertrude.
Really?
Yes.
Will you tell her that I want to talk to her? I have been waiting to speak to her or Robert all morning.
Do you mean to say you didn't come here expressly to propose to me?
No, that was just a flash of genius.
Your first?
My last.
I am delighted to hear it. Now don't stir. I'll be back in 5 minutes. And don't fall into any temptations while I'm away.
Dear Mabel, while you are away, there are none. It makes me horribly dependent on you.
Good morning, dear. How pretty you are looking.
How fine you are looking, Gertrude. It is most becoming.
Good morning, Lord Goring.
Good morning, Lady Chilton.
I shall be in the conservatory under the second palm tree on the left.
Lady Chilton, I have a certain amount of very good news to tell you. Mrs. Cheveley gave me up Robert's letter last night and I burned it. Robert is safe.
Safe. I am so glad of it. What a good friend you are to him, to us.
There is only one person now that could be said to be in any danger.
Who is that?
Yourself.
I? In danger? What do you mean?
Lady Chilton, yesterday you wrote me a very beautiful, womanly letter asking me for my help. You wrote to me as one of your oldest friends, one of your husband's oldest friends.
Yeah.
Mrs. Cheveley stole that letter from my rooms.
Well, what use is it to her? Why should she not have it?
Lady Chilton, I will be frank with you. Mrs. Cheveley puts a certain construction on that letter and proposes to send it to your husband.
But what construction could she put on it? Oh, not that. Not that. If I'm in trouble and wanting your help, trusting you, propose to come to you. Other women so horrible as that.
Lady Chilton, let us tell Robert everything at once.
You want me to tell Robert that I wrote you a note?
I think it is better that he should know the exact truth. May I do it? You are wrong, Lady Chilton.
No! No, the letter must be intercepted, that is all. But how can I do it? I dare not ask the servants to bring me his letters.
Do his secretaries open his letters?
Yes.
Who was in with him today? Mr. Tafford, isn't it?
Yes.
Tommy would do anything for you, wouldn't he?
I think so.
The letter was on pink paper. He could recognize it without reading it, couldn't he? By the color.
I suppose so.
Is he in the house now?
Yes.
I will go to him and I will ask him to stop the letter from reaching Sir Robert on pink paper. Oh, Robert is coming with the letter in his hand. It has reached him already.
I want you. I trust you. I am coming to you. Gertrude. Oh, my love, is this true? If so, then it was for me to come to you. This letter of yours, Gertrude, makes me realize that nothing that the world may do can hurt me now. You want me, Gertrude?
Yes.
You trust me, Gertrude?
Yes.
And why did you not add that you loved me? Gertrude, you don't know what I feel. When Trafford passed me your letter across the table, he had opened it by mistake, and I read it. Oh, I did not care what disgrace or ruin was in store for me. I only thought you loved me still.
There is no disgrace in store for you, nor any public shame. Mrs. Cheveley has handed over to Lord Goring the document that was in her possession, and he has destroyed it.
You sure of this, Gertrude?
Yes. Lord Goring has just told me.
So, that's what was happening last night. Then I am safe. For 2 days I have lived in terror, but now I'm safe. How did Arthur destroy my letter? Tell me.
Burned it.
I wish I had seen that. How many men would love to see their past burning to ashes before them? Is Arthur still here?
Yes. He is in the conservatory.
I am so glad I made that speech last night in the house. I'm so glad. I made it thinking that public disgrace might be the result, but it has not been so.
Honor has been the result.
I think so. I fear so almost, for although I am safe from detection, although every proof against me is destroyed, I suppose, Gertrude, I should retire from public life?
Robert, you should do that. It is your duty to do that.
It is much to surrender.
No, it will be much to gain.
And would you be happy living somewhere alone with me, abroad perhaps, or in the country, away from London, or away from public life? You would have no regrets?
None, Robert.
And your ambition for me, you used to be ambitious for me.
Oh, my ambition. I have none now, but that we two may love each other. Let us talk no more about ambition.
I don't think your conversation is at all.
Oh, my darling.
What does this mean?
It means that this charming, foolish young lady has been clever enough to accept me.
Congratulations, Arthur.
Oh, Arthur, my best wishes to you both. I have to thank you for what you've done for me. I don't know how I can repay you.
My dear fellow, I'll tell you at once.
Lord Caversham.
That admirable father of mine really makes a habit of turning up at the wrong moment.
Good morning, Lady Chiltern. Warmest congratulations to you, Chiltern, on your brilliant speech last night. I've just left the Prime Minister, and you are to have the vacant seat in the cabinet.
A seat in the cabinet?
Yes, here's the Prime Minister's letter.
A seat in the cabinet?
Certainly, and you well deserve it too. You have got what we want so much in political life nowadays. High character, high moral tone, high principles. Everything you have not got, sir, and never will have.
I don't like principles, Father. I prefer prejudices.
I cannot accept this offer, Lord Caversham. I have made up my mind to decline it.
Decline it, sir?
My intention is to retire at once from public life.
Decline a seat in the cabinet and retire from public life. Never heard such damned nonsense in the whole course of my existence. I beg your pardon, Lady Chiltern. Don't grin like that, sir.
No, Father.
Lady Chiltern, you are a sensible woman. The most sensible woman in London. The most sensible woman I know. Will you kindly prevent your husband from taking such... Would you kindly do that, Lady Chiltern?
I think my husband is right in his determination, Lord Caversham. I approve of it. I admire him immensely for it. I have never admired him so much before. He is finer than even I thought him. You will go and write your letter to the Prime Minister now, won't you? Don't hesitate about it, Robert.
I suppose I'd better write it at once. I will ask you to excuse me for a moment, Lord Caversham.
I may come with you, Robert, may I not?
Yes, Gertrude.
What is the matter with this family? Something wrong here, eh? Idiocy? Hereditary, I suppose. Both of them, too, wife as well as husband. Very sad indeed.
It is not idiocy, Father, I assure you.
What is it then, sir?
Well, it is what is called nowadays a high moral tone, Father. That is all.
I hate these newfangled names. Same thing as we used to call idiocy 50 years ago. Shan't stay in this house any longer.
Oh, just go in here for a moment, Father.
What, sir?
I beg your pardon, Father, I forgot. The conservatory, Father. There is someone there I want you to talk to.
What about, sir?
About me, Father.
Not a subject on which much eloquence is possible.
No, Father, but the lady is like me. She doesn't care much for eloquence in others. Lady Chiltern, why are you playing Miss Cheveley's cards?
I don't understand you.
Mrs. Cheveley made an attempt to ruin your husband, either to drive him from public life or to make him adopt a dishonorable position. Why should you do him the wrong Mrs. Cheveley tried to do and failed?
Lord Goring.
Lady Chiltern, allow me. You wrote me a letter last night in which you said you trusted me and wanted my help. Now is the moment when you really want my help. Now is the time when you have got to trust me, to trust in my counsel and judgment. You love Robert. Do you want to kill his love for you? What sort of existence will he have if you rob him of the fruits of his ambition? If you take him from the splendor of a great political career? He who was made for triumph and success. Don't make this terrible mistake, Lady Chiltern.
It is my husband himself who wishes to retire from public life. He feels it is his duty. It was he who first said so.
Rather than lose your love, Robert would do anything, wreck his whole career. As he is on the brink of doing now, he is making for you a terrible sacrifice. Take my advice, Lady Chiltern, and do not accept a sacrifice so great. Besides, Robert is being punished enough.
We have both been punished. I set him up too high.
Do not for that reason set him down now just too low. Your husband's life is at this moment in your hands. Your husband's love is in your hands.
Gertrude, here's a draft of my letter. Shall I read it to you?
Let me see it.
What are you doing?
Your life is more important than this. Lord Goring has made me understand. I will not spoil your life for you, nor see you spoil it as a sacrifice to me.
Gertrude! Gertrude! Arthur, it seems that I am always to be in your debt.
Dear no, Robert. Your debt is to Lady Chiltern, not to me.
I owe you much. And now, tell me what you were going to ask me just now as Lord Caversham came in.
Robert, you are your sister's guardian, and I want your consent to my marriage with her.
Oh, I am so glad. I am so glad.
Thank you, Lady Chiltern.
My sister to be your wife?
Yes.
Arthur, I'm very sorry, but the thing is out of the question. I have to think of Mabel's future happiness, and I don't think her happiness would be safe in your hands.
But I love Mabel. No other woman has any place in my life.
Robert, if they love each other, why should they not be married?
Arthur cannot bring Mabel the love that she deserves.
What reason have you for saying that?
Do you really require me to tell you?
Certainly I do.
As you choose. When I called on you yesterday evening, I found Mrs. Cheveley concealed in your rooms. I knew you were engaged to be married to her once. The fascination she exercised over you then seems to have returned. You spoke to me last night of her as a woman whom you respected and honored. That may be so, but I cannot give my sister's life into your hands. That would be wrong of me. It would be unjust, famously unjust to her.
I have nothing more to say.
Robert, it was not Mrs. Cheveley whom Lord Goring expected last night.
Not Mrs. Cheveley? Who was it then?
Lady Chiltern.
It was your own wife, Robert. Yesterday afternoon, Lord Goring told me that if I ever was in trouble, I could come to him for help, as he was our oldest and best friend. Later on, after that terrible scene in this room, I wrote to him, telling him that I trusted him, that I had need of him, and that I was coming to him for help and advice. Yes, that letter. I didn't go to Lord Goring's after all. Mrs. Cheveley went instead. She stole my letter and sent it anonymously to you this morning, that you should think. Oh, Robert, I cannot tell you what she wished you to think.
What? Have I fallen so low in your eyes that you thought for even a moment that I could have doubted your goodness? Oh, Gertrude. Arthur, you can go to Mabel, and you have my best wishes.
Lord Goring, I think your father's conversation much more improved than yours. I am only going to talk to Lord Caversham in the future, and always in the conservatory.
Darling.
What does this mean, sir? You don't mean to say that this charming, clever young lady has been so foolish as to accept you?
Certainly, Father. And Chiltern's been wise enough to accept the seat in the cabinet.
Oh, I'm very glad to hear that, Chiltern. I congratulate you, sir. If the country doesn't go to the dogs or the radicals, we shall have you Prime Minister someday.
Luncheon is on the table, milady.
You'll stop to luncheon, Lord Caversham, won't you?
With pleasure. And I'll drive you down to Downing Street afterwards, Chiltern. You have a great future before you. A great future. Wish I could say the same for you, sir. But your career will have to be entirely domestic.
Yes, Father, I prefer domestic.
And if you don't make this young lady an ideal husband, I'll cut you off with a shilling.
An ideal husband? Oh, I don't think I should like that. It sounds like something in the next world.
What do you want him to be then, dear?
He can be what he chooses. All I want is a real wife to him.
Upon my word, there is a good deal of common sense in that, Lady Chiltern.
Aren't you coming in, Robert?
Gertrude, is it love you feel for me, or is it pity merely?
It is love, Robert. Love and only love. For both of us, a new life is beginning.
And curtain.